say, I want to note that the use of tear gas in this instance, which I do believe incited the run to the border, it was a peaceful protest up until I believe the tear gas was deployed.
That's not correct.
Tear gas is not an agent.
That's not
tear
correct,
gas is not a chemical agent, I believe, that should be used on civilians, although it is, for some crazy reason, legal to do so.
Used all the time,
although you cannot use it in warfare. It is literally...
No, you can't use it in warfare.
You can't use it in warfare, but it's okay to use it on civilians?
I was in the military. Tear gas is used...
It's not. It is illegal to be used in warfare, David. Are you telling me that's incorrect?
Simone,
is it legal to be used in warfare?
Simone,
yes or no?
I don't know what the agent exactly
It is not legal.
They use it in policing all the time.
You're proving my point. Again, what I'm saying is it is illegal to use tear gas in warfare, but for some reason, Simone, in the United States and many other countries, it's okay to use it on civilian agents. It's been used at the border. It was used on Standing Rock in 2016. It was used in Ferguson in 2014.
Very quick.
So let me just say, I listened to the detailed reporting about how this went down. It wasn't that these guys fired. They fired only after these 100 or so folks charged the border. It wasn't that the Border Patrol fired into a peaceful crowd. They didn't do that. That's complete misrepresentation.
Everyone stick around. We got a lot more to talk about.
We've, during certain times, as you know, closed the border. They're not coming into the United States. They will not be coming into our country.
Just minutes ago, President Trump continued to seize on the hectic and dramatic clash at the U.S.-Mexico border to push funding for his proposed border wall and to steer attention towards an issue that he thinks plays well with his base. The president tweeting today in part, quote, Mexico should move the flag-waving migrants, many of whom are stone-cold criminals, back to their countries. They are not coming into the USA. We will close the border permanently. If need be, Congress fund the wall. The incident happened at the San Ysidro port of entry between San Diego, California, and Tijuana, Mexico. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says as many as 1,000 migrants tried to enter the United States. 69 were arrested on the U.S. side. Border Patrol agents also used tear gas, with some families and young children caught up in the confrontation. The Border Patrol said they were responding to projectiles thrown at them. CNN's Leila Santiago is in Tijuana, Mexico. And Leila, this is not the first time we've seen a confrontation like this at the border. There was one in 2013. There were others before that. How did this one start, and what exactly happened?
All right, you know, as I've talked to people here, many of the people you actually see behind me, they were there at that clash that took place yesterday, and they're telling me it really has changed the mood of today. So here's their take from this. They tell me that this was supposed to be a peaceful march, that they were heading to the border, some even hoping to engage the officials on the other side of the fence in some sort of dialogue. Many supporters were marching with them toward the border, but then at one point, and I haven't found one person who could sort of really give me the exact second, but the migrants all realized that tear gas had been released, and they just started running. Some men, many women, many children, and as a result of that, things have really changed here today. Even Mexico actually taking part in deporting some people, saying we are not going to tolerate disorderly conduct. They've taken about 100 of the migrants into custody and are planning to deport every single one of them. And that uncertainty here can also be seen as the federal police surrounded the shelter where I am, where about 5,000 migrants are right now, and we're seeing helicopters everywhere. Certainly a wait-and-see type of attitude.
And Leila, people are still trying to get over to the U.S. Can you describe them there? Are they mostly men? I know there are families as well, but what's the makeup of the crowd, and are they still trying to get into the U.S.?
So right here, as of the latest numbers, there are about 5,000 people, migrants, including families. A good chunk of them are men. I talked to one woman who said that she can't find a way to ask her daughter, a 7-year-old, to forgive her for putting her through what happened at the border. Many of them saying, look, we're going to stay here. Mexico is providing buses for people who want to self-deport. Today we saw 20 people get on that bus to self-deport, but that's 20 people out of about 5,000. So it seems like the majority of the people here are waiting to see how long this will last before they can get to the border to seek asylum.
All right, Leila Santiago, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's talk about this with our experts. So what's your take on this? Obviously, I could see how people who are advocates for immigrants and migrants have looked at the caravan and said, these are mostly women and children and young people seeking a better life. And then this incident happens, which seems to fuel a lot of the anti-immigrant activists.
So we have to look at this by the numbers. So there are around 8,000 folks who are traveling with a migrant caravan, and that's what the official numbers are so far. About 7,000 are in Tijuana, Mexicali. And of those that were in what began as a peaceful march against the long asylum claims in the United States, some broke off and did rush the border. But in the grand scheme, this is about 100 or so of the many that are there, and we're really seeking the peaceful march and really trying to seek asylum into the United States. Now, I was on a call with administration officials last week, and they said that they did identify around 500 criminals traveling with the migrant caravan, but they didn't provide any details as to how they came to that figure. So there are some criminals that have been identified according to the administration, but by and large, we are seeing from reports that they are women and children that are traveling and trying to seek asylum here in the United States.
The president clearly trying to use this issue to try to push for funding for the border wall and paint all of the migrants as dangerous.
We should also mention seeking asylum is not illegal immigration. I mean, that the president seems to be conflating the two. But that said, yes, he's using this as a way to try to pressure folks into supporting the border wall. Here's the thing. Some Republicans don't support the border wall, and those are the same Republicans. A lot of them lost, and the president decided to name check them and insult them on their way out the door. So the idea that he's going to get these people on board, even with this additional pressure, is hard to believe. And then next year, it'll be, talking about how the Democrats won't do it over and over again. Part of me wonders if the president even wants the wall, or if he just wants a political issue.
Well, David, the president has been threatening that he's willing to even potentially shut down the government if he doesn't get funding for the border wall. Take a listen to Senator Joni Ernst, Republican from Iowa. Dana Bash yesterday on State of the Union asked if he'd be right if he shut down the government if he didn't get funding for the border wall.
I would rather that he didn't. Again, we as Congress need to work really hard, one, to make sure that we are funding our government. That is our job as Congress, is to fund the government. But we also understand that our constituents have stated quite clearly that they want to see our border protected.
What's your take?
Hey, look, I think anytime the government gets shut down, Republicans are anywhere near, they get blamed, right? Regardless of whether they're in charge or not, they get blamed for it. So I think it's a bad idea. I've expressed that to the president before. I think it's a bad idea for the government to shut down. Look, I do think you made the point earlier that this episode is great evidence for why they're going to go and stand on the House well and the Senate floor and say this is exactly why we need a border wall. No matter how many border checkpoints you have, folks are going to come rushing the wall and trying to get through. It's the best example of the worst case. And that's exactly what it's going to be used for. Despite the thousands of peaceful folks that have been pointed out, the 100 or so or 500 or so, whatever the bad numbers are, if you have folks who are rushing, going around the federal police in Mexico, throwing rocks at Border Patrol agents, and really acting like thugs and criminals, really paints it as a bad picture.
And also, just something that we're seeing here, too, is that they are trying to get to the ports of entry. So even if you do build a border wall, which is what Trump is really advocating for, they're still trying to get through the legal avenue here.
Yeah, which was, to be frank, which was what the government shut down yesterday. The government shut down a port of entry. And so, to be frank,
those folks weren't going to the port of entry yesterday.
Okay, they were at the point of entry. The San Isidro, but that is a port of entry. That is also a port, a very busy port for folks to go through and out every single day. And so I think, for the government to claim that folks are trying to enter the country illegally when the legal way to claim asylum is to go to a port of entry and then the government shuts down the port of entry, it's really an issue. But I will say, I want to note that the use of tear gas in this instance, which I do believe incited the run to the border, it was a peaceful protest up until I believe the tear gas was deployed.
That's not correct.
Tear gas is not an agent.
That's not
tear
correct,
gas is not a chemical agent, I believe, that should be used on civilians, although it is for some crazy reason legal to do so.
Used all the time,
although you cannot use it in warfare. It is literally...
No, you can't use it in warfare.
You can't use it in warfare, but it's okay to use it on civilians.
I was in the military. Tear gas is used...
It's not. It is illegal to be used in warfare, David. Are you telling me that's incorrect?
Simone,
is it legal to be used in warfare?
Simone,
yes or no?
I don't know what the agent exactly
they use. It is not legal.
They use it in policing all the time.
You're proving my point. Again, what I'm saying is it is illegal to use tear gas in warfare, but for some reason, in the United States and many other countries, it's okay to use it on civilian agents. It's been used at the border. It was used on Standing Rock in 2016. It was used in Ferguson in 2014.
Very quick.
So let me just say, I listened to the detailed reporting about how this went down. It wasn't that these guys fired. They fired only after these 100 or so folks charged the border. It wasn't that the Border Patrol fired into a peaceful crowd. They didn't do that. That's complete misrepresentation.
Everyone stick around. We got a lot more to talk about.